search engine optimization and marketing experts Robert O'Haver and Caleb McKelvin, powered by the Robert Palmer family of companies.
Welcome back to another episode of Search Talk Live. I'm your host, Robert O'Haver, with my friend Caleb McKelvin.
What's
also
up?
Hosting the show.
Yes, sir. What's going on, Rob?
Not much, man. It's another great week, I tell you.
Yes.
Oh, and happy birthday, Google. It's their 18th birthday.
Happy birthday, Google. Sorry I didn't get you anything, but you know.
Yeah. What would you get, Google?
Yeah, right.
But, yeah, and also last week they released Penguin.
Yes, they did.
Which is quite a big deal.
Very cool. We'll touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So that's kind of a highlight there. And really, it hasn't been much of an effect.
No.
You know? Yeah.
Not that I can see.
I've seen some little bit of positive, not anything negative.
Right.
So, I mean, at least it's not dramatic like it was before. Well, for us anyway.
Yeah. Not the end of the world quite yet, but we'll see.
Yeah. Those of you listening to the show for the first time, Search Talk Live, we talk about everything digital marketing. We talk about search engine optimization, conversion optimization, social media, content marketing, you name it, it's covered. And we try to have a guest on each week, and we've done, I think, an amazing job. We've had just some amazing guests on the show.
Absolutely. Some of the tops in the industry on the show, talking digital marketing. And the crazy thing is we've had a wide range of topics and an expert on each one come on the show.
And we try to cover everything. I think maybe next year we might lean on more industry-specific stuff so we can get those of you that are in that industry maybe a little more tips and tricks and not really tricks, but some good advice on
strategies.
What to do. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, today we're going to be talking about conversion funnels. Those of you that don't know what a conversion funnel is, it's the path that a customer that visits your site or a client or whatever it may be that visits your site and how they get to that checkout or whatever it may be. And you want to introduce our guest?
Yeah, absolutely. We have, he's the Chief Strategy Officer at Statwax. We have Jeff Gasior. How you doing today, Jeff?
Great. Glad to be on with you guys.
Yeah, glad to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, so what's new with you, man? Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and Statwax.
Yeah, absolutely. So Statwax is our full-service digital firm based out of Fishers, Indiana, which is just a little bit north of Indianapolis, Indiana. We try to look at things through, obviously, the full conversion funnel as opposed to just segmenting out a specific platform or kind of marketing tool. So some great things happening here, getting ready to finalize a proprietary dashboard and some other great things internally that we're going to be really excited to roll out. This will be week 4. So 4 weeks ago on this Tuesday, we rolled out what's called Statwax Academy, which is a free class to get people certified or through the Google certification program. At Statwax, we're always trying to educate as many people as possible. So ton of great stuff here going on at Statwax. And then as myself, I kind of cut my teeth in digital advertising in the for-profit education space, and then moved over onto the agency side and been just really excited about where it's been and where it's going. And kind of like we were talking offline, what these next 2 to 5 years are really going to bring in the digital space. So just a lot of excitement, I guess, on my end, being a part of such a growing industry.
Very cool. Yeah, forgive me, but I did want to bring something up before we get started here. We did a survey a couple of weeks ago, and I did want to touch on some of the topics that are the feedback we got for the show. One of the things is someone mentioned that I sometimes overspeak when somebody, and there is a little bit of a lag when we're talking to guests. And I just want to let you know that I'm not doing that on purpose. I'm not trying to be rude.
No, you're very rude.
If there's sometimes our guests have a bad connection and it sounds like they're ending their sentence, I might jump in because I don't want any dead air. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's just because you're so excited about the topic, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Oh.
But I did want to address that and let you guys know that I wasn't just trying to be rude to our guests or anything like that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the feedback's been amazing.
Right.
Extremely engaging. I was afraid that the show was too long. An hour long, and they were saying, no, it's just right. So, and they value the feedback. So it's
very good.
It's been good.
I like it.
All right,
good
Jeff.
Stuff.
I'm sorry.
All right,
I just want to get that out there.
Back on topic.
Yeah. So let's get started. We're going to talk about conversion optimization or the conversion funnel, so to speak?
Yeah, it's in my opinion, it's a great topic to speak upon. It allows us to kind of go through the full digital space. And right, let's be honest, our clients in this world care about conversions just as much as we do. So how do we impact that bottom line and prove that their marketing dollars, are obviously turning that return on ad spend? So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, conversion funnel is my excitement, right? It's what I bet every morning.
Yeah. Well, I got just a question for you to kind of kick things off. When you're taking a look at somebody, a new client comes to you or whatever it may be, Jeff, and you're sitting down and analyzing kind of how they have their funnel established, what it looks like, what are you actually looking for, kind of what are the check marks that you're trying to go through when you're first analyzing it to see what's working, what's not working?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, unfortunately, there's not kind of a, check all of these boxes, and then kind of move on, which is what's exciting about the conversion funnel.
Right.
You have to look at lead time based on the actual client itself. So, is the widget that this client is selling is 99 cents or does it cost $500? So when we go to build that conversion funnel and we look at some of the metrics that are important, obviously that cost for conversion is going to be a key indicator in that. Essentially what we originally kind of start looking out as we look at the conversion funnel are some of those anomalies, some of those metrics that don't maybe make sense or just don't seem like they're hitting the right areas. Usually that can lead to uncovering something as easy as an improper landing page or load times being an issue. It's very easy to dive into just basic conversion metrics or click-through rates, but we really try to look at the full funnel, including outside digital preferences. So we know a lot of our clients have a marketing mix outside of just the digital world. So we want to make sure, was it a PR hit that led to a search impression share increase, from their paid search, and then that led to an increase in conversions? Without attributing that credit to the PR hit, you might not be able to fully understand how paid search was impacted. So really trying to think outside of the box and really look at metrics that, maybe you don't actually look at from a conversion standpoint, and really try to see if there's any sort of seasonality, which is another big one for us. From an education standpoint, you're going to have higher enrollments in certain parts of the year than other. And if you don't take that into account, you're obviously not going to be able to prepare a proper conversion funnel, from that standpoint. And then from there, after we've kind of analyzed the data, we just start putting some hunches, together kind of on a giant whiteboard that we have in our conference room here. And then we start to see how close those hunches are, to being realities. Once you make that first hunch and you come up with that first assessment, you then have to test it and shoot holes in it. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest things that we always tell our clients as well as internal is you have to check your ego at the door. A lot of people think that because they see conversions coming from one spot, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and they just need to put more dollars in it. And if you actually check your ego at the door and really try to look at the numbers objectively and not play favoritism one way or the other in your mindset because you hope it's this or you want it to be that, it's amazing at how well the data can just speak for itself, and smarter decisions you can make.
Yeah, and Jeff, just for the listeners, we're talking paid landing pages, correct?
Well, I mean, technically, from a conversion funnel standpoint, we try to look at everything, but on our end at Statwax, we handle just the digital kind of conversion component of it. But kind of like I mentioned earlier, a nice PR hit, a public speaking event, really a lot of these outside digital factors may have a massive play into how it can impact the conversion funnel.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, so basically you're doing a lot of A/B testing, correct? You're doing two pages competing against each other.
Yeah, a lot of A/B split testing, right? So not only would we look at landing pages, but ad copy to targeting demographics. In order to really put a full, true funnel together, you really need to put all assumptions aside and kind of just test things out from start to finish. The crazy part is when you put your first test hypothesis together, you have so many different areas you can go. It can be landing page based, can be ad copy, it can be targeting. So really trying to put together campaigns that allow you to test out one or two variables, so you're not getting overclouded with what's actually moving the needle, and then also allowing yourself to have enough time. 7 to 30 days is usually a good amount of time to test something out.
Sure.
You never know what's going to happen from Sunday to all the way through the end of the week to Monday. So if you're not giving yourself enough time to let the data parse, it's really hard to make objective decisions. So at the end of the day, the conversion funnel can be one of the best tools you can use, not only to see how your digital dollars are being spent, but also understand how your other forms of marketing are incorporated with that. As a digital agency, we would love for everybody to spend every penny on the digital side. Yeah. It's just not smart, from a marketing mix standpoint.
Yeah.
And obviously, the way that our agency approaches it is we want to make sure our clients are investing in the right tools to move the needle. At the end of the day, them just giving us more money and us not being able to convert more means they're going to fire us as an agency. So if PR is where they need to go, or if they need to invest in-store pushes, it really is going to be in our best interest to provide them with that data. So we really try to let the conversion funnel speak for itself and truly try to report on the same metrics week over week. That way, you guys know as well as I do, you can make just about any digital number seem like it's working. But when you do that, your clients aren't necessarily getting the best bang for their buck.
Right. Another thing that's important too that a lot of agencies do that I've seen, and I'm glad to hear that you guys do that, is they focus on just the campaigns. They set up the campaigns. They don't bother with landing pages or anything else. And that's really that I'm glad to hear you say that you do that, because it is extremely important, because if their site doesn't have that funnel, or if it's just a, crappy site, it's just, it's important to have that.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. And it's not just the site either, right? You've got to take into account the actual product itself. So we'll spend a lot of time parsing through reviews that other people have written on our clients' products, just to try to get a sense for what the market is dictating the product to be graded at, in addition to what the experience they're having on a landing page, both mobile versus desktop, in addition to how their experience is from an ad standpoint. One of the things that we really take pride in here is analyzing data kind of manually and then building all of our algorithms and script on a custom basis, versus trying to paint everybody into kind of one box, buying an audience and then kind of attacking it from there. So the more granular you can get and the more time you try to understand your customer's journey, it's amazing the types of results you can get with a hyper-targeting world, like digital offers right now.
Yeah.
So for us, it's so key.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming from the SEO world, I do both. I do paid as well, but I would have to say you give the SEO guy the springboard to where those keywords are and what's converting. So, yeah.
Well, and there's an amazing back and forth that can happen with either a company that you work really closely with from an SEO and an SEM standpoint, where we had a client who we were going to test out search impression share, and we were aiming for 100% search impression share for branded key terms on the basis that our ads converted higher, than organic. So we should 100% of that market space. We then tested a hypothesis that if we only got 85% of that share and then let organic own the other 15% of branded keywords, would we potentially be able to impact non-branded or even top, or middle of the funnel a little bit better? And it was amazing. We did miss out. We weren't converting at the same rate organic versus obviously paid search, but we're able to collect enough on the organic side that we weren't really dipping that much from an actual conversion standpoint. Yeah. So we just freed up 15%, of our budget for branded terms that we were able to use to fill the funnel, and it led, I think, to like a 215% increase in overall conversions for the month because of what it did from top of the funnel all the way down. So you're absolutely right. When a digital firm understands that they can work with organic and paid, it's amazing at the beast that can create between two firms like that.
Well, especially in what you do is it's an eye opener, because like if you're creating just a strong funnel that is creating those conversions, they can integrate those things into their sites and just. I tell all companies they should always, even if they rank for their brand, do a paid campaign as well.
And that is when we talk about educating our clients, that is one of the areas that we spend a lot of time, right? If you're new to the digital space, your mindset would be if somebody Googles my brand name, my organic, my website, should be able to capture that. But it's so powerful to add in that paid layer on top of it and test it out. Like I said, in some instances, organic can potentially convert, just as well. And another point that you mentioned, we have a lot of clients that once they see our conversion in kind of full focus, they're able to start building their actual brand calendars off of it. So what should their blog posts be? What should their social media posts be? A lot of companies and brands out there are just kind of posting content to post content, because they need to check these boxes from an SEO standpoint. Yeah. If you truly understand what your content can do within the conversion funnel, everything you post, obviously becomes so much more important. And so working with firms like that that want to partner from a content creation standpoint is vital, to a brand success when you have a full conversion funnel that actually makes sense from top to bottom. It's amazing at how your marketing plan and marketing mix becomes easy, to put together. It takes out a lot of the guesswork.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And the other thing, too, is your competition is bidding on your brand in a lot of cases. So you need to be there.
I mean, when you look at traditional media, one of the funny things is when you put a billboard up, you can't have a competitor then go and put a billboard directly below them that's trying to compete with it. And so you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a unique world where when somebody searches Nike, you bet Adidas is going to show up and Reebok and all these other brands. And so you essentially have people that are fighting, for your clients. We always talk about this. If you aren't prepared for what the path of conversion is going to be from a potential client from brand awareness all the way to conversion, you could essentially be pushing people into the awareness and consideration phase just so your competitors can convert them. You're essentially giving them media dollars and introducing them to your industry space only to not convert them and push them to one of your competitors. And it's a very common mistake that we see, with a lot of our clients, thinking that they are putting out good content, but because then they're not following that up. And to use your term that you said earlier, Rob, a actual campaign. If you don't have a campaign in mind when you just put content out, somebody could read that and go and buy from one of your competitors, versus buying from you, which is very impactful from a dollars in standpoint.
Absolutely. And usually it depends on what you're doing, but if you're driving someone to a blog post for a campaign, typically you're going to pay a lot less than you would as, you're driving them into a e-commerce site or something like that. And, and if you're on something like Facebook, you can get it pennies on the dollar,
Yeah, well, I mean, right, that's Facebook's biggest problem is Facebook really does fall into kind of the consideration phase, right in the middle there. Not that you can't use it as a bottom of the funnel converting source, but I mean, for the most part, it's a good spot where a lot of people are going to do their research. So when you look at Facebook, one of the biggest changes that they made was allowing you to bring your e-commerce and some of your content into its site itself. So when they run ads, you don't have to leave and go off site. You can actually take some actions, on Facebook right now, because studies show once you get hit with an ad, you'll usually go through a research process. And if Facebook can keep you on their site and keep you converting, they can obviously charge more money. Where AdWords right now and those kind of direct buy, Amazon, AdWords, Bing, paid search, those are those direct converters that are getting, the majority of the funds for that bottom of the funnel. So Facebook is trying to play that game and fight a little bit, in that regard.
Yeah. If you're just tuning in, of course, you're listening to Search Talk Live. We have our special guest today, Jeff Gasior, the Chief Strategy Officer at Statwax. We are talking conversion funnels, paid advertising, digital marketing, all of the above. You can get your questions in through Twitter, hashtag Search Talk Live. We are monitoring that throughout the show, also by email, Caleb at Search Talk Live or Robert at Search Talk Live. But quickest way is through Twitter. We do also have a voicemail option, which you can call in, leave a voicemail, probably for future shows. But that number is 407-490-2588.
You repeat that?
Yes, 407-490-2588. Call in, leave a voicemail. For the show, we are sponsored by the Robert Palmer family of companies. You can go to robertpalmercompanies.com, check out everything they have to offer.
Yeah. Now, Jeff, let's take people through the process.
Yeah.
We're going to give them some actionable items so we can, they can get something from the show.
Right.
So let's say they want to come to you. Let's just say they're coming to Statwax. Okay, I want you to, create a conversion funnel. Where do you start?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, here at Statwax, the first thing that we're going to do is try to get an understanding of what their whole marketing mix is. So the first thing a potential client or just an individual small business owner all the way up to large, who wants to potentially do this in home, right? They don't want to contact an agency. They want to, maybe take a pass at it at home or in their home office. Yeah. The first thing that they're going to want to do is make sure and write out what their marketing mix is. So have an understanding of, PR, digital ads, social, organic, essentially anything that falls in to what you would spend marketing dollars on. So traditional advertising all the way to new media across the board, and try to start to analyze what your dollars in and dollars out are. So, what are you spending at each kind of rung along the way? And then obviously being able to, let's say, just utilize Google Analytics. Most companies that we deal with and most businesses out there at least have Google Analytics, if not other tools, they can parse data from. But once you understand that marketing media mix that you're putting out there, you can start reviewing some of your data. So try to figure out what some of your top referring sources are. So why is traffic coming, to your site from each one of those kind of media mixes that are out there, and start to learn some of the habits. Google Analytics, one of the best parts about it is you can't break anything, right? So you can go around, you can search things, you can look through any possible metric you want on the back end of your site. And even if you don't know what you're doing, it's not outward facing. So anything you do is not going to change anything on your site. It's not going to cause any problems. So we always tell clients, go ahead, mess around, and really try to parse through that data. And so what you really want to start looking at is where are your top websites, coming back to you? Is it from your PR? Is it from some of your ads? Are you seeing a lot of direct traffic that's maybe happening between a specific hour in the day that you could then parse up with a media buy? Basically, we're trying to figure out that first step that's happening in a user's customer journey. So when a user comes from a brand awareness standpoint, what is the first step that they take? You'll see potentially a specific website. Let's say you have a piece on CNN.com. Somebody reads an article that's written about your brand, and then they come to your site and you see that they're spending 1:15 and visiting 2 pages, but taking no conversion actions. From right there, you can just gain a ton of information about the 2 pages that they visited, how much time on site they are. You can actually start to see if maybe remarketing to them, is going to be an option at that point. So really trying to figure out in that first phase, how are they getting there? How is that brand awareness, happening? How are people finding out about your brand? And then from there, you start looking at what are the next steps that it takes. So are you seeing that 20% of your traffic is new and 80% is returning traffic? So the majority of the people are coming back 3, 4, 5, 6 times. You can start to judge that you're going to need multiple touch points across the way, right? So then how do you talk to them in that consideration phase? This is where you might start introducing social share, Facebook, or other social media channels to try to get them in that consideration phase. Something else that's great is potentially looking at how they're engaging with video. Video is a great way if somebody's come to your site, hasn't taken a conversion metric, and is still interested in research. Video is a truly great source to tell that story that's a little bit longer from a text standpoint, but also more engaging than just a general banner ad. So how do you then get that secondary message, to that client based on what you're seeing them doing on your actual site? And then the third one is just trying to understand what is making these each individual convert on your actual site. And now this is where it'll change immensely. If you're B2B, B2C, or B2B and B2C facing, the time to lead and time to conversion can vary greatly. But if you take those kind of 3 steps and understand how they're becoming aware of your company, how they're figuring out to consider that your company is who they should be with, and then convert, you can come up with that time, that actual time lapse from start to finish, and really start to build out what your customer's process is. And once you know how long it takes them to go from start to finish, you can really start making better decisions with your dollars. So after you kind of do that research, you can go back to that marketing mix. And what we usually do is try and rank in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many channels you're actually using, and just start ranking those out from top to bottom, and then moving them into actual funnel points. So under awareness, you should be able to look at your marketing mix and say, after some research, analytics, and some other deep dives with my sales team, I think that these 3 marketing mix mediums are in the awareness, these 2 fall in consideration, and these 2 fall into conversion. So now you've got a basic data-built conversion model that you can actually start testing out and seeing if it works or not. It's pretty fun to do, and it also allows you to open up your eyes to some of the ways your clients are getting introduced to your brand, which is always exciting, and also allows you to plan better, obviously, quarter to quarter.
Yeah, so the conversion funnel is not necessarily my expertise. So kind of some of the questions I have, do you always have to start top to bottom in the conversion funnel? Are there ways you can introduce in different parts of the funnel? What would be the best strategy? And is that something you should even consider? And what kind of statistics show you that, hey, I don't have to start at the brand awareness. I can go, more toward down the funnel towards the purchase part of it. When you're looking at that and people are thinking, well, do I have to start, top to bottom every single time? How do you know when you can start introducing them to different parts of the funnel?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the ways to kind of look at it is in its basic form, and for us, having a chat today, we will make it seem like it's as easy as awareness, consideration, right? At the end of the day, if it was that easy, I probably wouldn't have a job that I have now. But at the end of the day, it's more of a flow chart. So they step on step 1. Is it yes or no? If it's no, revert back to, point 2, almost a massive flow chart of every marketing piece you have. What do you talk to them next with? So kind of to your point, if you look at something like sunglasses, right? It's not an industry space that needs brand or just general awareness. You may need brand awareness, but there is enough people in the market for a specific type or style of sunglass that type of industry space could potentially enter into the consideration or even the conversion phase, knowing that those sales are already happening across the board. It's well known. We have a client that is in the kind of mosquito game, right? They sell these amazing. It's called the Dynatrap, and it's an amazing product because of West Nile, because of the Zika virus, because right now in this country, top of mind is how to get rid of containing mosquitoes. You don't need to spend as much, in the top of the funnel. So usually the industry space will dictate that. Mm-hmm. If you have an industry space that isn't well known, then you're always going to have to kind of start at that awareness factor. And also, it'll also determine how you set up your branded and non-branded keywords. Again, from a branded standpoint, you're going to need the brand awareness. So if you're not willing to invest heavily on the awareness and you just want to go straight conversion, you may want to spend more money on non-branded keywords, versus branded, knowing that nobody really knows about your brand and is searching for it. So every kind of product is different. Even within product categories, they're all different. And so you kind of just have to look at it all the way and test out what the data is telling you, and even kind of relying on a hunch or two based on past experience. So you don't have to go A, B, C every single time. You just need to know when and how you can skip. And those are just a few kind of examples to when you could pop into the consideration or conversion phase. Another good one is home food or fast food or pizza, things that are made in split-second decisions. So you don't need to go from awareness to consideration or conversion and know that you want to order pizza tonight,
right,
at 7:00, right? So that one is an immediate conversion factor. There's not a 14-day cycle knowing that you're going to go to McDonald's, in 2.5 weeks from now. So those quick purchases, let's call it $10 or $15 or less, those sometimes can go straight to conversion and skip the awareness and consideration phase.
Yep. Now, I got an email question here. This person says they've got a new product, and he wants to know, should I do a branding campaign or should I do a conversion campaign? That
is the $1 billion question every time, right? And if you are the person who is coming out with this new product, obviously you hope that it's go to conversion, so you can obviously impact your bottom line. Right. And it really, I mean, it really does depend. There's a lot of models that have worked differently across the board. Some people are able to quickly go right into conversion mode. Again, I think it plays on the industry space itself. Is a new product and new category, so people aren't even searching or understanding that this type of product exists, or are they entering into a vertical that's very well known and they just need to jump into the competitive space. They might be able to start the conversion process. My mindset, and again, this is just shooting from the hip with no other data, than what you provided, is I would always go brand awareness to start. Building your brand and seeing your company or even your persona or whoever the leader of your company is, if you actually see them as a thought leader in the community space or in that industry vertical space, you're not going to potentially see a lot of sales on day one, but you're setting yourself up for being that kind of thought leader in that industry space, which down the road is going to lead to more conversion. So it's kind of the chicken and the egg. You can usually jump in and at least start getting some conversions if you take enough time to build up your reputation and the awareness of you and your company as a whole. We sometimes see a decrease in costs as days go on because nobody questions you anymore. They're aware of who you are, they're aware of your company, and they're aware that you're a trusted name. Because in today's day and age, for the most part, that's how we make our buying decisions. Or we just go to Amazon and see who has the cheapest price and just buy it from there. But that doesn't really play into this talking point. So at the end of the day, I would always go brand awareness, but that's just me shooting from the hip with no other knowledge base and awareness versus conversion.
Yeah, I would have to say too, like it depends on the strategy. If you're just branding to brand, I mean, you don't want to make an ad campaign with just your brand if your brand's never been heard of. But if it fills a specific niche, say it makes you work faster or something like that, then maybe that would be your keyword targeting, and then the ad would have your brand there and go after that one.
So we'll play a little buzzword bingo for those people that are, checking their scorecards at home. But digital storytelling is such a great way to tell that story without just saying, here's my brand, here's the name. It used to be you could just put up a simple ad and people would just eventually know that Coke existed. Right. You don't know if we're in that day and age anymore. Right. You need to tell some sort of a story. Depending on the product, you may need it to be compassionate. It may need to be fear. It may need to be happiness. Depending on what you're selling, there is a story that's going to resonate. And that's kind of what you need to do. If you're just going to put up display banners, with your brand on it and nobody knows, who you are, that's not really the route to go. Building through social media, through blogs, getting your name out there as much as possible, and writing content. When people are searching and going through that research phase, it's amazing at how many pieces of content they'll read or videos they'll watch to make some of their buying decisions. So at the end of the day, you're 100% right. You can't just talk about your brand. But if we can use that buzzword one more time, if you fall into that digital storytelling, category, it's amazing at how well you can set yourself up for the future and also start using that data to start putting a marketing mix together. We're talking about a conversion funnel, but one of the words in there doesn't need to be true, right? You don't actually need conversions to be able to start building out your conversion funnel, which seems a little counterproductive, but there's always things you can learn from a brand awareness campaign, from split testing. You don't just have to have your conversion funnel be focused on people buying your product. You can build a conversion funnel on brand awareness. You can build a conversion funnel on email signups. It doesn't have to be dollars in and dollars out when we talk conversion funnel.
Yep, I have to agree. Yep. And it would, let's say, why don't you give us some of the tools that you use that are good tools out there that you would recommend?
That is a great question, and we are fortunate enough to kind of build our own tools in-house. So we have some proprietary things that we utilize in order to build out our conversion funnels, which is great for us. One of the one of the problems that I have with the digital space right now is there's not enough individual built tools. These massive conglomerates that go across all audience segments and all product spaces and aren't really hyper built for one specific person, one specific company. So I will actually go the opposite and tell listeners to really kind of build your funnels on your own. Google Analytics is a great tool to use. There's some great tools out there like SEMrush that allow you to see some of, don't really pay attention to the dollars, that your competitors are spending, but really pay attention to some of the ad copy, some of the iterations, that they're using. You would be amazed at using some of those search engine tools like SpyFu, SEMrush. It's just amazing at how you can see the evolution of one of your competitors' campaigns and almost start making inferences and learn based on some of the mistakes that they made and some of the dollars that they spent. I don't really 100% trust the dollars that they say are being spent. But for example, SEMrush now has the capabilities of doing video ads, display banners, and search terms, paid searches that you can actually get data off of. So when you're looking at building a funnel, using past data, using things that your competitors have done well and have also done poorly, is a great way to kind of lead with that. One of the reasons why I shy away from tools is because they make a lot of inferences for you. And I just believe if you're going to build the conversion funnel, and this will be a Statwax term that we use here, is you got to roll up your sleeves and kind of use some old-fashioned elbow grease, right? Everybody wants to automate everything, and everything has to be done at the click of a button. But I promise you, if you take that extra time, that extra minute, and do it yourself versus letting some of these tools automate it for you, it really is amazing how different the results are. They might just be a fraction off or a fraction different, but you guys know as well as I do, that fraction can sometimes be the difference between success and failure. So again, a couple of tools right there, but for the most part, just rolling up your sleeves and really digging in is, in my opinion, the best way to do it.
Gotcha.
Nice. Now, Jeff, let's talk about, because I think a lot of people find that they themselves in the situation where they have people that don't take any action in their funnel. Maybe they go through a little bit and then they just leave, but they're not converting like you want them to. How are you going to look at that? What are you looking at? What are you looking at? Their activities, their actions, kind of how they're interacting with your website, and how can you get them back?
Yeah, and that is, right, this is the scariest thing in digital advertising right now, right? When you put that pair of red shoes in your cart and then you abandon it, and for the next, 3.5 years, regardless of if you ever buy them, you've got those red pair of shoes following you around, right? I mean, remarketing, it can be done very well, and it can also be done very poorly. And the ways you can set up your remarketing buckets is what really separates, I think, good remarketers from bad remarketers. Taking into account which pages they've visited and then giving them another message. I will beat this word to death, it appears, but when you look at that story you're telling, so your digital storytelling from start to finish, if somebody has seen an ad, clicked on it, has now gone to your site, visited your About Us page, and let's say went to your product page, and that was it. Those are the only two sites or the only two places on your sites that they visited. You aren't going to want to have the remarketing message that you send to them say, this is about us. Well, because you already know that they've been on your About Us page, so you would assume that they have the knowledge base of about you, so you should move to another message. So building your campaigns based on how many touch points they've had with your site, how many other ads they've seen, what actions they've actually taken is great to put them in those buckets, but it's more important to make sure that the next message they get is progressing them down the line. We see it a lot with bad remarketing. When you see an ad for something you just bought, even though you've already bought it and have gone through the conversion phase, you sometimes feel a little, you just don't like it. You don't understand why it's still following you. And those are the types of remarketing pixels that, if they're done poorly, can turn users off. Another thing that we're seeing on our end, so there's all of this data and stuff that we use from the actual buying side on the ad side, right? So paid search, you can use keywords. We can use interest targeting on Facebook. There's affinity in market targeting. I mean, the creepiness that we can use to find you as one individual user, I mean, it's unbelievable where it ranks. But the crazy part is as you're going through the process, we can actually kind of parse out individual users and talk to them through that entire funnel. So at the end of the day, when you go to try to get somebody to come back, we're seeing some really cool tools that allow us to use that same data that we're using to bring you into the actual funnel can now be used on the back end of your actual site. So for example, if you were to go to, let's just say Adidas.com, right? They now have the ability, and I'm not saying Adidas, I'm saying sites, have the ability now to have plugins on their back end that will use the same data that we use to find you as a marketer to show you the 10 items that you are most interested in. So usually when you click on an ad, it'll take you to a shoe page that'll have 10 shoes and they're all white, they're all a specific kind based on the ad that you clicked on, whether it's remarketing, whether it's a general ad. You click on it, you go to the site, they drop you off to show you 10 white shoes. What's great about this is they're taking that same technology, so when you come back, and they're going to show you 10 to 15 random items, not just 10 pairs of shoes, based on your buying history, based on what you've put in other carts, based on your search history. So not only is it important to figure out how to bring them back from a remarketing standpoint, but how do we give them a better user experience once you bring them back? A lot of people don't take this into consideration, but there is a definite reason why somebody left your site and didn't convert. So when you bring them back, how do you make that second, third, or fourth user experience better than the first time? How do you push them one step closer to converting? And when you speak to people in that fashion versus just blanketed remarketing banners across the board, it's amazing at how many more will come back and then actually take your conversion a little bit further and actually convert. So it's not a perfect science, but it's at least understanding your customer better than just generally running banner ads, which is what we see a lot of in remarketing.
Yeah, and Jeff, let me ask you, do you typically, if you're doing an A/B test on landing pages, do you bring them back on the, if they went to A first and you send them back to B with the retargeting banner?
That's a great question. In some instances, that is something you can do. In other instances, it's still not a true test. So if you introduce somebody to A and, let's say the conversion process just is a little bit longer than one touch point. Mm-hmm. So then you bring them back to B, you're now giving full credit to, the B website versus the A site, even though let's say A was 80% of the reason, why they converted. So there is definitely an opportunity to try and test some of that out. It's interesting at what you would change and some of the variables in an A/B split test like that. But it's definitely something you have to be very careful and very thorough in how you set it up. We usually don't want to put them to a completely new page and a new experience. We want to make sure and have them go through the full funnel, because when you build your funnel out, when you start adding in multiple websites, it makes it extremely difficult to give proper attribution.
I agree. So do you use anything like, you said you use your own tools, but I was for recording site users and stuff like that?
Yeah, we do have a lot of tools that we use, but we love Hotjar. Hotjar has a pretty good tool. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them, but one of the things we love about them is they do all the heat mapping and can tell you, where's people's mouses have been, but they just video record the entire experience for a set number of users, on your site. And this is very, very important to us, because when we go back and look at some of those screen recordings, we had one client, and this is not a joke, but we had one client who just didn't make their button clickable when they put their website live. So we went through all the testing. When we went through everything, their conversion button worked. We went through the conversion process. It worked. But for some reason, when it went live, you couldn't click on the conversion button, to finish it and go through the sale. Mm-hmm. When we looked at Hotjar, all you saw was a mouse clicking on the convert button like 15 or 20 times, and then almost a mouse throw. The mouse just went all the way up in the left corner with like a red streak behind it and exited the page as fast as possible. Wow. So being able to screen record allows us to see if a button on a particular page isn't working how it should, or if a video within your actual page isn't loading properly. And a lot of little small things like that you can't get from just load times or analytics or some of those other metrics can really go a long way. So we're a big proponent of Hotjar and use them a lot across our clients.
Yeah. And do you like, I mean, I've used screen recording quite a bit, and it's amazing how much you can see that people actually read with their mouse.
Yeah. Oh, and that is a great point.
And where they go, they are looking. I mean, typically with their mouse, so.
I mean, you couldn't be more correct. You can literally see an entire customer's journey if they're working with their mouse. You can see the words that they get stuck on. You can see their flow from top to bottom. If you want to talk about a perfect screen recording, it's somebody who reads with their mouse, pauses where they need to pause, and then scrolls through. And you can literally see where your hiccups are. Mm-hmm. You can see where people are engaging and taking a secondary action on your site. Those are our favorite, our favorite type website users. Is ones that read with their mouth. And you can tell by my excitement level there, we get a little geeked out over fun things like that.
It's really cool, though. It is. And you can see them all the way through to the conversion. So you can actually tweak just the smallest little things to make that conversion better,
Yeah, absolutely. It's the key. It's not just on one person's task. So as we talk about the conversion funnel, it's not just on us at Statwax to build this amazing ad campaign that just immediately converts everybody. There's a lot of split testing, a lot of back and forth, a lot of landing pages changes that need to be made, but they need to be made with reason, not just off the cuff and willy-nilly. They really need to have some weight behind each decision that's made.
What's up, man? You guys can't do that instantly? What's up?
Right? Once you said that, it kind of popped into my brain. I truly wonder if that will be the next iteration, right? So right now you've got PR that PR pieces are changed on a website sometimes just to increase clicks and engagement. Yeah. I wonder if we'll ever get to the point to where as a user is on your site, you can change the setup of the actual landing page itself based on what they're actually doing. I don't think it's possible now, but who knows what the future has in store for us.
So typically, how long does it take to do a test? And I know that it depends on the site because, if you have a site that doesn't get a lot of traffic, then it's going to take longer. But to do those testings. But what would you say typically before you guys can hone in on a target?
Yeah, so the least amount of time we'll ever do is 7 days. That we have to give every single day of the week an opportunity. To have to give 7 days at least. We lean a little bit more towards 14 to 30, just again, giving as much time as possible. It also really depends on the campaign. Sure. If you have a 30-day campaign, you obviously can't make optimizations every 30 days. There's no reason to hire an agency. I mean, you could just do that yourself then. Right. So really, at the end of the day, 14 to 30 days is ideal for a full year kind of long-term campaign. If you're doing a monthly one, then 7 days is really the least amount of time that you would want to do.
Yeah. Do you ever let's say you're doing an A/B split test. Do you continue testing one after the other? So 4 weeks in, you've got your conversion rate up to, let's say, 10%. And then do you continue to test as you're going, or you just say, okay, this is good, and move on?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I'm going to kind of revert back to how we do things here at Statwax. At the end of the day, we're always excited about what we did at the day that we did it. So if we hit 10% on Monday, let's celebrate that 10% and let's be excited about it. Yeah. But once you come into work on Tuesday, 10% better be what if you don't hit that, then it's a bad Tuesday. We always want to strive to increase a conversion rate, improve what we're doing. Agencies or just individuals that kind of rest on a good day usually don't have a good month. And the last thing we want to do is rest on a good day and a hunch and have it crash and burn, for the rest of the month. So at the end of the day, we get fired up coming into work to see who can hit the biggest conversion rate that day, who's got a cool click through, who came up with a new ad copy, and that internal competition I think really makes us better. And if you ever came in and had 10% and you came back the next day and said we got 10% again, I think the majority of the people in our office would kind of roll their eyes at you and say, well, you did that yesterday. What's the old adage?
Pressure.
Yeah, right? The old adage is you're only as good as what you did for me today, not yesterday.
Yeah.
It's just really what we believe. And I think it's why our clients like working for us, because they actually get geeked out when we get a 10% conversion rate. And then when you talk to them next week and you're like, we killed last week, we're at 14% now. they're still excited about 10% the week, prior, and now you're hitting it with 14%. It's amazing at how that relationship gets built, and that's really what we try to aim for is those good relationships, quality clients, and almost being an extension of a marketing department, not just somebody that can spit out a 10% conversion rate and say, "Wow, this is great. Look what we did."
Yeah. So, what would your we got about 11 minutes left in the show. What would you say would be some good actionable items for someone?
Building a conversion funnel, right? Let's say that's the number one action item is if you don't know what your conversion funnel is definitely taking a look at that. I would ask questions of people in your marketing department. I would rely on people, and this is going to sound really crazy, but potentially even some people in your accounting department as well. You're literally parsing through data and formulas. People that can manipulate Excel, people that just have a general understanding about data itself are always great people to pull in. And sometimes even a third-party non-objector, a friend, a family member who maybe isn't as tied, to what you're doing to just bounce some conversations over. And as you're going to build out that conversion funnel, really look at your sources and where they're going from start to finish. It's a little difficult to try and explain this, obviously through a podcast, but there are some great resources to utilize. Google Analytics. There's some great videos out there on how to manipulate it, but genuinely having an understanding of how you can use analytics to match up with conversions. It may take you a few days, it might take you a week's worth of research, but genuinely having an understanding of how you can utilize a tool like Google Analytics and understanding the conversion process is important to anybody who is in a marketing role. If you can't look at the back end, of a website and understand how people are converting on your site, it may not be as important today as it is tomorrow,